Married, divorced, and single here, it's one family that mingles here.
Conservative and liberal here, we've all got to give a little here.
Big and small here, there's room for us all here. Doubt and belief here, we all can receive here.
LGBTQ and straight here, there is no hate here.
Woman and man here, everyone can here. Whatever your race here, for all of us grace here.
In imitation of the ridiculous love Almighty God has for each of us and all of us, let us live and love without labels.
Hi everybody, I'm Jen Jepson. I'm one of the pastors here. My pronouns, I was going to say prepositions, but that didn't sound right. My pronouns.
Do you have a favorite preposition? I love prepositions.
What's a preposition?
It's like to or for or with or before. Or...
I like with.
Yeah.
And that's what we get to do here. We get to be with each other because we're a big, happy, left-handed family. And I'm so grateful all of you are here tonight. Thank you for joining us. This is an important night to look back on the good of the almost last 2 years that we've had, as well as to look forward to the next, hopefully, a lot of years ahead. So one thing that you all need to know, and I'm not sure if you know this, it's not just 3 pastors that make this church work. We've got Heather Lynn, we've got Kimberly with the kids, we've got volunteers, but we also have a leadership council. And I would like all of our leadership council members to stand up, please. I'm going to introduce them. I'll go from this side. We've got John Gaddis here. We've got Christy Sykes, Christy Estel. We've got Vernon Duggar, Jody Mason. We've got John Gettings here, Lonnie Williams, and Joe Quillen. What did I call you, Lonnie? I wrote it all down and I missed it. I think I was getting you mixed up with Lucinda Williams. I know. So these are all our leadership council, and they come from a variety of places. Many of them come from here. We also have John is at Denver Community Church, which is one of our supporting sister churches. We also have Highlands Church, which holds you, Joe, and Vernon. And then we have Jonathan Williams, who is not here. He's at our sister church in Forefront, Brooklyn, New York campus, for whatever that is. So that's also a sister congregation. So without further ado, I'm going to have Lonnie and Lucinda and John come on up, and they're going to get us started.
Well, thanks. It's good to be with you tonight. So Lonnie and I are the co-chairs of the Leadership Council, and it's been a gift, a joy, a privilege to serve this community in that role for the last couple of years. And again, why some of us from outside of your congregation kind of were moved into this Leadership Council role initially is because this didn't exist yet, right? And we got to help put some structure to this, talk about governance and some really exciting things like that. Terrible. Finances, governance. But the other main thing that we get to do as the Leadership Council is discern. And we get to discern where we are. We get to discern the future. We get to discern what the Spirit is drawing us into. But not just collectively, not just as left-hand body, but we're also constantly discerning what we're being called to individually, right? Not just for each of you, but for the staff as well. And so over the course of the last few months, we've spent some time discerning. Some things have kind of bubbled up, some shifts and deepening expression of kind of who we want to be as a faith community is presenting itself. Some opportunities to release a couple of staff in some ways to continue to use their gifting and experience in the broader capital C church in our nation, are providing them opportunities for themselves as well. And so we've kind of been discerning what's best for Left Hand, what's best for these individuals, and how do we continue again to not see this as anything that is negative in any way. Instead, this is an invitation to a deeper expression of who Left Hand has always been and can be, and they're going to release for these individuals. And so Lonnie is going to share a little bit about some of the specifics of what those shifts and changes are right now. So I'll hand the mic over to her.
Thanks. And I do especially want to thank the churches that have really supported us, DCC and Highlands and Forefront. So I think that much of what we've been able to do has really come from the work that they have already been doing. And so we're so grateful for them. So tonight, I just want to share, first of all, my gratitude again for everyone in this room, for Left Hand, for a church where I feel like the spirit that is here is a spirit of authenticity, a spirit of openness, a spirit of gratitude, and a spirit of hope, which is something that our world desperately, desperately needs right now. And not just here in Longmont and Boulder Valley, but really everywhere. And so some of the changes that we're talking about tonight are really part, I think, of the spirit of Left Hand, being able to sort of help move out into the world into some ways. So there are some changes that are coming up. And I think that this is really a healthy thing, because I think where these changes are coming from is really the pattern of people acknowledging their gifts and their call and responding to that in a way that I think really is powerful and is the way that things change in the world. People using their gifts and their strengths and responding to God's call on their lives. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about Paula's role. Paula has been just such a gift. Her intellectual and just theological depth has meant so much to me. I feel like I learned so much, I'm challenged, and I feel like I have a faith that I can dig into, and a faith that allows me to be a deep thinker. She has so many opportunities that really are uniquely because of who she is, because of the journey that she's traveled. She has opportunities literally kind of globally to talk about gender equity and to really help shape the conversation that our society needs to have around gender right now. And so she will be moving from one of the three pastors into the role of teaching pastor. So what that looks like is she will still be here, she'll still preach, she will not have to do the administrative stuff. So it's kind of like best of both worlds. She gets to show up and say stuff and have fun, but not, go to staff meetings. So, but we're so grateful that we will continue to really benefit from her wisdom and from the way that she has sort of a sense of how the church is moving and growing. And in a little while, you'll hear from all of our pastors, and they'll get to share a little bit more about the directions that they're heading in. But we are so thankful for Paula, and we just want to be so supportive of her as she moves into really expanding the ministry that she has through the teaching and speaking engagements that she has with so many organizations, with really influential people. And so we are grateful to just be a part of that and to continue to support her in that. Our dear pastor, Aaron Bailey, who has done so much to just make stuff happen. It's hard to describe, really, I think, the influence and power of the three pastors that we have, and just really the ways that they have created this community. Aaron, as you know, has this incredible sort of gift of starting things, of being a vision person, of being an entrepreneur, and has worked with and built Launchpad, contributed to this organization that is, in essence, planting other churches that are like Left Hand. And he has felt deeply called to just dig in and go do that full time. And so at the end of the year, he will be leaving Left Hand staff, and we will miss him desperately. But we're so grateful that he will be part of building more churches that are like Left Hand, that are inclusive and welcoming and have their own character and flavor. And so there will be lots of parties, I'm sure, for all of this. So look for the party invitations to come. Jen Jepson. Well, as you can imagine, we're going to need someone who really still keeps us moving and growing as a community. And Jen, I think it's been amazing to watch her just grow into being a pastor. Like from just thinking, how can I start a church, to starting a church and being a pastor. So she will step into the lead pastor role, which means an increase in her time commitment. She's also going to be looking into doing a little bit of theological training. And so she will just continue to do the things that she's already been doing. Being a pastor, I feel like there's probably many of us in this room who've had a cup of coffee with her and just felt her warmth and her graciousness, her just support. And so we're grateful that she will continue to sort of be our lead pastor and help move Left Hand forward. That's not all. I know this is a lot to take in. As you can imagine, with Aaron and with Paula moving into different roles and responsibilities, Jen's going to need some help. There are things that need to be done. And again, I think this is the mark of a super, really healthy body where there are people already here who've said, you know what, I'm in. How can I help? And so Christy Sykes and John Gaddis will be stepping into part-time pastoral roles to do the stuff essentially that they're already doing. Being here, helping organize things, welcoming people, helping us figure out budget, so many ways that they have just already moved into really being leaders in our church. That's quite a bit to take in, and we know that there are probably questions you have or ways that you want to respond, and so after the service we will have just kind of a little piece of dinner and a Q&A session, so you'll be welcome to ask questions then, or after tonight, you may still be thinking, hey, I still kind of want to find out some things. You're very welcome to contact me, to contact any of the Leadership Council members, to contact any of the pastors, just to talk more about your responses. And again, I just want to emphasize, I think that this is the pattern of healthy growth, the pattern of people sensing where they are called and using those gifts. And we hope that that is something that really becomes the mark of Left Hand for all of us, that we, as we continue to grow spiritually, as we continue to sense the ways that God is working in our lives, that we will move into our own calls, whether that's just right here or wherever that may be. So I want to invite Aaron to come up and just have him share a little bit with you about where his heart is.
So I wanted to take this opportunity to talk to you about my decision to step down at the end of the year. Many of you know that in addition to my work here at Left Hand, I've been in the early stages of starting Launchpad, that new nonprofit that's going to equip and support church planters really around the world. There's a team of 4 of us so far, 4 staff, and we have a board of pastors and church planters from around the country, including Paula. As Launchpad started to grow, I began to realize that in order to really have an impact in the world, Launchpad needed my full attention. And I feel called to give it my full attention. And I've realized that Left Hand deserves leaders focused on leading this church as we grow into year 3 and beyond. So I spent time in prayer and conversation and discernment and made the difficult decision to transition out. When Jen and Paula invited me to take part in this Left Hand experiment, I promised myself that I would not step away. I would fully commit to Left Hand until new leaders, the next generation of leaders, could be recruited from within. So I'm thrilled that John and Christy started to express their call, their discernment, independently from my call to transition out. And I'm confident that Left Hand's Leadership Council will help guide this church into the future. But I'm also really sad. I promised I wouldn't do this. I'm really sad that that at the end of this year, that I won't be a part of this community on a weekly basis. This year, I've talked to dozens of potential church planters from Auckland, New Zealand, to Los Angeles, to Washington, D.C., all in various stages of planting a church. And so many of them tell me that they are inspired by what we're doing here at Left Hand Church. I truly believe that the local church is the answer to changing our world for the better. what Left Hand, what every one of you is doing here is critical to living out our call to love God, to love our neighbors, and to love ourselves. So tonight isn't goodbye. That'll come in December. We'll have plenty of time to celebrate and to say goodbye. But tonight I wanted to say that I love you all. I love this church, and I'm so excited to watch you, to cheer you on, and to support you through the work I'm doing with Launchpad. Thank you.
5 years ago, I uttered the most terrible of words, and I said, I think I need to start a church. And I didn't think that I was going to be one of the people to actually be one of the pastors. I thought I was going to get to outsource that work to somebody else who actually knew what they were doing, who didn't really want to know. I didn't really want to know how the sausage was made, as we like to say in our leadership councils. And I knew I needed to start a church, but I didn't really know much beyond that. I didn't know how, I didn't know what, I didn't know where, but I did know who. Rachel Held Evans, in her book, Searching for Sunday, she said, "This is what God's kingdom is like. A bunch of outcasts and oddballs gathered at a table, not because they are rich or worthy or good, but because they are hungry. Because they said yes, and there's always room for more." I started those dinners in February of 2017 because I had to release some of the pressure that I was feeling, seeing the pain around my neighborhood, in my community, in this nation. And I thought, well, we're just going to get some people together. And we've had, I think now we can say we've had 32 dinners. And that those meals have funneled into this church, and it has been one of the most exciting things to live out what Rachel Held Evans also saw, was we get to create a table that always has room for more. We get to bring up more chairs with more people that we don't see here. If we look around, we see somebody missing, we bring up a chair. That's what we get to do. I was attending a local megachurch at the time when I did utter those words, and my husband, Eric, in the back, he can attest to the fact that most of the time we would drive home down Airport Road and I would be screaming at the top of my lungs, "I can't do any more than I'm already doing. Please don't add any more to my plate." Because every time I was there, I was missing grace. I was missing mercy. I was missing compassion. I was missing feeling that love from God. And what I was realizing is all of us are completely 100% entitled to abundance, generosity. We are entitled to compassion. We are entitled to knowing and holding a God who loves us more than we can ever imagine. And that's what we get to do here. And that was part of my vision when this thing started. How do we get a bunch of oddballs together that know that they are loved? Because if you know you're loved, then you get to love. And it's the greatest thing you get to do. It has been an incredible joy to start this church with Paula and Aaron. I cannot thank the two of you more. I am so honored to work with two talented, gifted people. And now I get to work with two more talented and gifted people. Talk about abundance. That's what we get to do here. And so I just want to say thank you for making Left Hand as beautiful as it is. And thank you for sticking with me. And I love you all so very much.
So it was 5 years ago last month. It was not a good year. 2014 was the year I lost all of my jobs, most all of my friends, thousands of people I knew by name who I've never spoken to ever again. At that point, from LifeBridge Church here in town where I had been on the preaching team, I had been contacted by exactly one person, their senior pastor, no one else. And it was a particularly difficult month. In October of 2014, when Jen Jepson reached out and said, I heard things have changed with you a little bit. And I think it might be an opportunity for me because you were never accessible before because you were the big teaching pastor. And now you're, well, can we get together? And we did. And she said that day, I want to plant a church. Well, I did that work for 35 years. I know it's the most difficult work on earth. It really is incredibly hard. My last 10 years, I got a doctoral degree focused on taking care of pastors. My total area of focus in my last 5 years with that organization was caring for pastors. Because as I told Jen that day, when you plant a church, often it sucks your soul. But I knew that day. She had been called. And she knew you reject a call at your own peril. And so 8 months later, we found Highlands Church, and we started attending there, and I started preaching there. And I saw her desire to plant a church grow and grow and grow. And then Aaron Bailey came to me and said, I sold my company, and I think I'm called to do something different. And I said, Aaron, for 35 years, I did what I thought was the most important work on earth. Starting new churches that tell people that Jesus loves them. And I said, somebody needs to do that, and I'm older than dirt, and I don't want to be the person to do that. But you can. You have that skill. You have that ability, but here's the thing, Aaron. You can't be the person who starts a church planting movement if you haven't started a church. So you need to be planting a church, and I've been talking with the leadership here at Highlands about planting a church maybe in Boulder County, and I think you need to talk to Jen Jepson. And I was going to oversee all of this for Highlands Church. I was not going to be one of the co-pastors, and then I realized I too had been called to be a co-pastor. And I think when we started this church, Aaron and I knew we would be leaving within a year or two. In my case, it's a little bit sooner than I thought I would be. I knew there was no question that Jen was called to lead this church. No question that she had the gifts, the abilities. No question that she had a pastor's heart, that she had the vision, that she had the ability to help people understand her vision and follow her vision. I knew she would lead. I did not know the world was going to make demands of me that it has made. I did not know I would be speaking all over the world. I did not realize I would not have the time I needed to devote to be a pastor for a church. 2 weeks from now, I'm doing a TED Talk in Denver. The week after that, I'm speaking for a thing in New York City. I won't be here either of those weeks. The week after that, I do another thing. I realized it's just not possible to remain in that role. But I thought, okay, if in fact, eventually I'm leaving, and eventually Aaron's leaving, who can be the people to work with Jen and support her? And so I kind of had my eyes out for that from the time we first started. And looking around, I saw two people that not only had gifts, a lot of you have wonderful gifts. The two people clearly had a call. I knew it. Because they were both terrified of it. That's how the call of God comes. It terrifies you. Jen is terrified of leading as lead pastor. Do any of us have a moment's doubt that she has the capacity to do it? No. They're terrified of joining the staff as pastors. But I knew then, when I saw that they had been called, it's like, oh, we're good. We're good. And I'm not going anywhere. This is my church. I will continue to preach here because this is my church, because I don't know where I could find another church that has kept it as simple as we do. Thanks again for watching today's sermon at Left Hand Church. If you live in Colorado and would like to attend, we meet on Saturdays at 5 o'clock. If you'd like to contribute to Left Hand Church, go to lefthandchurch.org/give. And if you'd like to send us a confidential prayer request, you can send it to prayer@lefthandchurch.org. Thanks again for watching.